problems, and that will give you the opportunity to talk to them about your product. Does this work? Well, it turns out, according to Procter & Gamble, this is 4 times as effective per dollar spent as advertising. They have now taken this and duplicated it in 21 different countries, including Saudi Arabia. So yes, engaging in conversations can actually generate sampling and generate sales.
So I think that's a great example of thinking about what's happening, and it's just another way that we need to think about building communities and think about the way that we engage with consumers. And again, it's not about not using traditional media, not using marketing. It's about how to leverage it better and how to direct consumers to it, engage them in our products. This is a really important subject as we think about the future and what goes on. Millennials represent a huge shift and change of behavior and attitude from at least my generation and many of us in this room. So we must think about what are they thinking about and how does that play a role. In this case, if you can read this, it says millennials are more likely to switch from one brand to another if that second brand is associated with a good cause. So this is a very, very strong number. Even if you discount it by quite a number of percentage points, it has a very strong meaning for a lot of brands, because if you don't, as we say, know what your color of your ribbon is, then it's going to be very interesting for consumers to make a decision about your product, because they will easily have information about your company and how you work and what you believe in and what you do, how you treat your employees, how you manufacture products, how green your products are. All that information will be instantly available to them on their phone, in the store, as they purchase, as they buy. It's all readily available. So you must think about that. And brands are starting to do this. A client of ours, American Express, is using American Express points to be able to contribute back, so you can use your points by the Members Project, so you can actually take the points that you would normally spend on a pair of golf clubs that you don't need, is now you can put towards a good cause. And then, of course, you might be aware of the Refresh Project out of Pepsi, of which they took money out of the Super Bowl last year, and they put $1.2 million every month available to be granted out to consumers by consumers voting on it. So you could submit a project that you want it to do, and then consumers would vote on it, and at the end of the month, the ones with the most votes would get the grant, and they would move forward. And they would do it again every month. And they've done this on and on and on. This is a massive undertaking about social media. And if you know anything about between Coca-Cola and Pepsi, Coca-Cola has actually been working in this space for decades, doing good causes. Pepsi has done very little in retrospect, but overnight they were able to come in and play a very, very big role in good causes and social, and they need to sustain that, obviously, to have an impact going forward. Think media everywhere. I put this image up probably about a month before the iPad came out, and it seemed to make a lot of sense about where you could look at video and look at all this information everywhere you looked. But clearly, within a minute, it was outdated. And this is actually my son on my iPad. And we have to think about media everywhere, because it's fundamentally shifting the way we think about how to consume media and what it looks like. Really, time shifting and all those things is really, really changing. Certainly on the iPad, if any of you have one, you can get full TV shows. Apple's just released and announced 99-cent shows that they're cutting deals, so attempting to do what he did on music with television. It's going to be quite interesting. And this whole area of video is critically important as we think about it, because it's really 90+% of what we do. So what's going to happen to all this? We can talk about the chatter and the Twitter and all those things, but in retrospect today, it's very small compared to where video is in sight and sound. How do we deal with that? What is that going to look like? And I think that is still pretty much up in the air. Traditional media, especially print media, is very much struggling everywhere with trying to understand what this new media is. They've looked towards tablets and this world of social as being a savior. Some of them get it. Some of them don't. Some of them are really adopting and understanding that. I'd say that for me, one of the most interesting publications is the New York Times, that has something like 26 different versions of the New York Times available around the world. It's one of the largest sites and capabilities in news media organizations, and almost every device that you want to engage with them, it is available. Whether it is a fax in your hotel room, or whether it's on your BlackBerry or an iPad or an Android, everywhere they've created a version of themselves that's appropriate to that channel and context. So it's quite interesting to think about that. But there are new players. This is Flipboard. And Flipboard just came out. It's an iPad application, but it's an aggregator. And I think it's quite interesting because anybody who has had Flipboard, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I'm one of them, quickly become addicted to it because it's very difficult not to enjoy it because it presents content in a whole new way. In this case, this is the cover, and it gives you these sections of content that you can really curate yourselves. So you can put your Twitter up there, you can put your Facebook up there, you can put whole sorts of areas in terms of anything on the web if you want to be fed to you. So it gets to be quite interesting. This is what Facebook looks like. So it's no longer just a long stream of updates that you're looking at. It actually becomes content. It takes that content and gives you the articles in long form. It gives you the imagery and stuff. And you literally turn the page like a book. So it becomes a live piece of content for you to see. This is what the Twitter page looks like. So much more interesting than a Twitter feed. Again, content expanded in many ways. Able to look at that. You can touch on video and expand it. This is Fast Company. Almost all content out there are RSS blogs. This is an RSS blog from Fast Company. Come alive because all of their blogs and all their information has imagery and tags and information. So suddenly all this is coming to you in a way, and by the way, it's all free. This is a little look at what happens. You just turn the page, and it's really quite interesting. So we need to think about that. And there's a company called IDEO that is thinking about the future of books. And this is a short video about one of their visions for where books is going to go and the importance of data as it connects to this medium. And maybe where we're going to start seeing this world of iPads and Kindles and books and tablets go.
For centuries, the written word has been a cornerstone of democracy. But as books become digital and move toward a more decentralized publishing model, how do we make sure we're adequately informed? Enter Nelson, a reading experience that comprises multiple perspectives to let you see the bigger picture. With Nelson, you can discover writings based on the impact they've had on popular opinion or debate, with a series of informational layers that provide additional context to any material being read, allowing you to see ongoing discussions, to double-check the reliability of the sources, and to tap into what's currently being said about the subject in the media. You can even see how the discourse has unfolded over time. Other perspectives on the subject are also displayed to provide a more well-rounded view. Nelson, giving readers what they need to form their own opinions on the important topics of our time.
I think that's fascinating because here you are, you look at content, and suddenly what's underneath that is a wealth of information that's just there to be used, right? And you see that even what I just showed you on Flipboard, this is a future vision. There are 3 visions of books for the future. If you go to this this URL, if you look in, if you just type in the future of book, you'll find it. It's fantastic. But the Flipboard already looks like that. It's very simple to start adding what they're showing as really there is no more science fiction, is there? We live it every day. But that whole world of getting data underneath this and really understanding this is fascinating, right? So it's going to be. Think about the information that you could get around a book. Certainly we can get that about products and information, same information. Really quite interesting. So the discussion around data becomes really important. And we think data is the new black. We think it's completely uninvested, mostly around marketing and advertising. I think that it is the most critical feature of the way we need to go to market. Then on the left here, you see an interesting infographic. It's called the Billiongram, and it's data about how many billions were spent on something. So if you look at one of those things, you can see that the upper right-hand corner, it says 3,000 billion. That's how much we spent, and the United States spent on the Iraq War. And you can see how much is spent on climate change, on Walmart profits, and all those things to give you a perspective around data. Because data can become our friend. We can really understand and influence what we're doing. This is an interesting map. There's some 80 cities that have been mapped. This is a geolocation of photography. So when you take a photograph in a city, it tags you. And anybody who's doing that has gotten, you see the red, this is Manhattan. You didn't know what it was. But you can see where all the imagery is being taken. Clearly, people are taking the ferry from the Statue of Liberty to the tip of Manhattan and taking a lot of photographs, right? And you can see where it occurs around there. But that information about what consumers are doing, think about it across the web. How much information can be gathered? How much information can be aggregated together to really understand what behaviors are? And how much of that is influencing the way that we market and talk about our products? Very little today, I would gather. But in the future, it will be a huge influence about the products we make, the services we do, and the way that we market. And if we go back and think about the Ford Fiesta example at about 100 agents, is that because they spent a year listening to consumers talk about the product, it has huge influence on the actual TVC and the print and the actual marketing that went out to market. Huge influence because they actually knew what the reaction was. They knew what people were going to think, and they addressed it. It wasn't just a creative decision. It was a consumer-influenced marketing campaign. So the way we think about this is that what we've been doing is archery. In some way, marketing is archery. It's target practice. Sometimes we use a laser-guided scope. Sometimes we use a javelin, and sometimes we carpet bomb. But in essence, we're basically targeting a consumer and inundating them with messages. And I would contend that that world is changing to the game of ping pong. It's a very, very different game. It is about a dialogue and a rhythm. It is no longer about targeting. Yes, we need to place the ball in a very specific place, but it is rapidly moving. It's always optimizing. The game is always different. And I would contend it's not just between two players, but more like 4 people playing at once on a ping pong table. It's that complex, it's that fast moving, and that much is the kind of work that we need to do to optimize. And that's where we need to shift our thinking about how are we going to be fast moving and influence all the other stuff that we're doing. What I'm going to leave you with is the future of video. This is a white paper that we created that we can certainly make available, but it is a view of the future of video, and it's still very unclear. But in the case of this is that what's happening to all of this TVC, all these TV shows, what are the thinkers and the people out there that are developing it, thinking about it, how is it going to influence the way we go to market in the future? So take a look at this.
Imagine, if you will, sitting down to your morning coffee, turning on your home computer to read the day's newspaper.
Well, there's a revolution going on.
A vast array of information.
Internet.
The Internet